Hey guys, it's Vince. Today I'm going to discuss with you a documented approach to troubleshooting your CNC. The interesting thing about this approach is that you're able to use it on virtually anything mechanical, be it your car or computer. It works exceptionally well to identify solutions where the process of trial and error or the process of elimination are to be used. Fortune 500 manufacturing companies that I've worked for have trained me in this method, and I'm sharing it with you because I know it's going to make you a stronger end user, especially when it comes to you learning your equipment, on top of the fact that if you ever have to contact me or another technician, you're going to be armed with the knowledge required to really make us identify what you are to give you a solution that hopefully solves the issues. So I'm going to just jump right in right here. I've got Microsoft Excel. Nothing special here, guys. Very, very basic. Again, I use Excel because I like a digital format for my data. If you want to use handwritten notes, that's fine. Whatever way you want to do it. I do have two clients that like to take audio recordings. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. The big thing here, in the one thing I want you to really pay attention to, it's all about detail. And when I say detail, pretend that someone just, God forbid, murdered someone that you love, and you're the homicide detective trying to identify who the murderer is. You want that kind of detail. That kind of ridiculous kind of detail is what you want to do, because, again, the more variables that you can give us as far as what you've checked, what you've done, when you did it, what time did it happen, again, the more detail you record, the more power and the more information you can provide to hopefully get the issue solved if you can't figure it out yourself. So what we have here, jumping right in, again, we have troubleshooting template, we have system issue, subsystems included in the loop, variables, possible causes, solutions executed, and I have technician. I'm going to cover most of these because, again, some of them are self-explanatory. System issue, again, that's naturally going to be what you're actually writing the report on. As we go through this, though, there will be some, like subsystems included in the loop, you may not know. Okay, so I'm going to discuss that real quick. Subsystems, really, if we look over here at possible causes, we realize that possible causes go with the system issue. System won't power up, so your possible causes, and you always want to start at the absolute base level, which, of course, would be the wall input. Okay, where you plug the system in from the wall, and then the actual wire then runs into the enclosure or wherever you have your driver and power supply located, you're going to have your wall input. You're going to want to check that. Okay, so once again, you're going to start at the absolute base level. You're going to look at the wall input, and you see I wrote here solutions executed. Under this heading, I wrote verified 8/29/2016 at 10:30 a.m. Okay, because again, we verified that the wall input was okay. You also see here where it says wiring from wall input, system power supply, and G540. Okay, so this is basically your entire power subsystem. Okay, meaning you're going from your wall, the wiring from the wall input, then you go in system power supply and right to the G540. That's the subsystem. If, however, you had a relay or two relays or extra switches or whatever else that would go in between all of this, that's what you would want to check. Now, there are some type of instances where you may buy, and I have guys that'll buy breakout boards, not for a G540, but for another driver set. If you're watching this video and you want to implement this for your own set, keep in mind that some things you may not be able to troubleshoot because they're built into your board. That's why in my previous videos, I always talk about actually keeping your subsystems separate. In this instance, you have a wall input subsystem, wiring from wall input subsystem, power supply subsystem, G540 subsystem. Why are they subsystems? Because they can be broken down. If it's a solid item where you make this all a loop, and when they're all connected, they become a loop, they are now not a subsystem until you break them down. So remember, individual components are subsystems. When it's actually connected to formulate a system, it's now a fully built subsystem. So in this instance, when this is all connected, that would make one subsystem. Keep in mind that, again, the more items you add, if you have a plasma system, okay, or a different system where you have more motors, you're going to go through here. Let's say you're having a motor issue, or in this case, we said system won't power up. So if you had a torch height controller and it was connected in this loop, you'd have to troubleshoot your torch height controller as well, or at least find it in this list wherever it would fall. Again, I always start at the base level: wall input, wiring, power supply, then you would have torch height, and then you would have G540. So your torch height controller would have to be checked. That means there's more time to assess what the actual issue is. Now, if you write here like I did, where I said verified 8/29/2016, 10:30 a.m., is it really necessary to write the date and the time? Yes, it is. And here's why. If you ever encounter this problem again, you will know that it happened to you before and what you did to try to solve the problem, which in turn means that you're seeing the issue again. So if you ever have to contact a technician, you could say, hey, this has happened to me multiple times now. You can give them dates, you can give them times, you can give them the scenarios in which it occurred. And again, you're providing him more information on saying, well, maybe we should just get you a new component, or, maybe it's this. That's what we're trying to do here. We want to make you be able to provide as much accurate information as possible, not just to me or some other technician, but also to yourself, because the more you get to see what's actually going on with the machine, and the better you become at dissecting your own machine, you're going to really learn it at a totally different mechanical level. And that's, again, where you want to be. I don't care if you're a hobbyist, I don't care if you're novice or advanced, this process is the correct way to go about troubleshooting your system and doing it with precision, to where you're able to identify problems quickly and hopefully through the process of trial and error find a solution, because typically it will happen, and I would say about 85% of the time it really is where the end user solves his own problem. The other 15% you would actually be closer to calling a technician, and when you do provide the information you actually did, 9 out of 10 times you'll blow his wig off, because he'll be amazed that you actually went through all that and have that kind of detail recorded. And trust me, it's a nice feeling, because then he knows exactly where to go with helping you. So overall, hopefully this has been somewhat helpful. Again, subsystems included in the loop, no other items in loop, because again, we only have wall input, wiring from the wall input, system power supply, and G540. We don't have anything oddball here. We don't have a relay. We don't have any of that. So basically, you went through, you're going to verify each component until you find the culprit. And again, if system won't power up and this is all you have, you're really only going to come down to the G540 and find out exactly where this all goes. Okay, now in an instance, let's hypothetically say, for example, that you find everything here is good, but the G540 is the one that's actually giving you the issues. Okay, you're going to come over here, and when I have technician listed, you're going to call Gecko's tech support, and you would naturally talk to him. And I would request that you actually take down the technician's name, take down the technician, what time you spoke to the technician. You want to record as much information on who you're dealing with, so that if you ever have to cover this issue again, you can talk to the same technician. See, with me, you're always going to talk to me. When you call other companies, 9 out of 10 times they have other people working. If you encounter someone on a different shift, or if you encounter maybe not even a different shift, maybe he's off in general, your odds are you're going to have to recover this information again, or just go by the notes that the original technician took, and that can be just a real PIA. So overall, you want to really take the ball out of their court and do the homework, and it will help streamline this process tremendously. So now, as you guys see, what we're looking at here, I went from subsystems included in loop, no other items in loop. Now you understand what a subsystem is. We have variables. Now I wrote here first time issue. What does that mean? Well, if the system won't power up and it's the first time you've ever encountered it, logic states that we write down first time issue. I also wrote a note here, and you see me once again, I wrote down 8/29/2016 at 9 a.m. This is when this first occurred. Okay, once again, extreme amount of detail. You know the time it occurred, you know it's a first time issue, and then you're going to go from there. And then again, we come over to here to possible causes. You could see now I'm dissecting this. I'm performing more or less an autopsy on my machine to find out exactly where the cause is. What is causing this? How can I do this? How can I identify the cause enough to where at least I know I've covered everything to the best of my ability, and the only thing left to do is either contact a technician or really identify each manufacturer's technician and go from there. That's what we're looking at doing. So once again, you would write down the verified. I already wrote this down as just an example, and then let's say you verified the other piece. You could come over here, and this again is why I like Excel. You can see you can come down here and go paste, and then you can go down here and go paste. And again, you should always record the time in which you're doing this. In this case, if you did it all at 10:30, which for example I did, then you'd be fine doing that. And once again, you see everything is done for you. And once again, you can also see why I like digital formatting, because you can manipulate information almost instantly. So again, that's what we're looking at, okay? On top of the fact, when you do stuff like this, and I can't emphasize this enough, you are going to become so smart with your machine, because you're going to know, you're going to pick up different things from the way she sounds, the way she produces components, you know, wear points, anything in the machine that normally you would only really pay attention to when parts wear out. You know, too many things on YouTube I found are all about movement and all about, you know, oh, hey, look at me make a part. None of it is about the real intricacies of taking care of the machine, you know. And the thing is, none of this equipment is 100% perfect all the time. I mean, 9 out of 10 of the things you find on YouTube is problems. So really, it kind of surprises me no one's ever done a video like this, but I think it really shows that where the market now is so new, and guys are still looking at, you know, getting involved in this. I hope this truly helps everyone in the sense that they'll have the information they need and the knowledge to actually develop something like this for themselves and make them stronger. I can't emphasize that enough. It is tedious to do. I mean, this is very time consuming to do, but I promise you, the education you'll get, not just to provide the technician with the amount of information required to really isolate your issue, but the education you get by learning the machine, it's priceless, guys. There's no school you're going to get this kind of information, because no one knows your machine like you do, especially if you built it. I have guys building their machines all the time and encounter problems, and a system like this will identify a problem almost immediately, at least to the point to where you're like, okay, I'm stumped. I've done everything, and I can prove I've done everything, right down to date and time, and now it's time for me to call and get some answers on certain components. So that's really where we want to go with this. That's why I said detail is everything. You know, as a machinist, if you're learning to be a machinist, and essentially we all are, if that's what you're doing when you purchase a machine, you're looking at controlling a robot, and you're using that robot to manufacture. No one buys CNC equipment for inaccuracies. If that was the case, you'd buy a handsaw. You're buying a CNC for precision. Use that same amount of precision you expect from a machine to actually go through and maintain it, and I guarantee you the payoff is just, it's just extraordinary. And I really mean that. It's going to really streamline the process of you learning everything. Okay, so once again, going through this, you want to record all the times and dates. So of course, if it ever happens again, you can go through that. One of the big things here, and I've had this happen a couple times after covering this with a couple clients, and once again using their own methods, where I've written down here, like I said, first time issue. First time issue on a problem like this is pretty basic. You know, system won't power up. Very, very basic problem. Not something here where there's a variable. Okay, let's discuss variables. A variable is where you're looking at more of an inconsistent problem. Okay, those are the ones that really are tricky. When you run into inconsistent problems, I'm going to give you a hint. 85% of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, it typically is software related. Okay, typically when a file is corrupt, I would say overall, you're probably going to see 90% of the time something there is amiss with software, whether it be what you created, something in the software is not playing well with something else, but 90% of the time it's software related. 10% of the time, I would definitely say the remaining 10% would definitely be EMI, which is electromagnetic interference or noise. Because if you're dealing with a metal chassis, we're dealing with electronics, you're always going to have EMI present. You always want to make sure you're shielding and grounding your equipment properly, especially if you're using a high power commercial grade spindle. Even if you're not using a commercial grade spindle, you'd still want to ground everything properly. So once again, take into consideration all of this, because this is stuff that's going to help you immensely, especially when, again, you're trying to do everything right, and you're excited, you've bolted everything together, you've put the time in, you've done your research, you've got everything done, you so to speak, and then you encounter this. Number one, you're dealing with frustration, you're trying to keep your head on and be focused. This right here will do it. If you ever encounter the situation, I totally recommend taking a step back if you are frustrated and coming back to it when your mind is fresh, because we all get frustrated, and the worst thing you can do is just be in a rush. Don't be in a rush. Take your time, be a scientist, and learn as you go. And believe me, it will pay off. So once again, I hope that this video has helped. I think you guys can see exactly where I'm going with this, but overall, I can't emphasize enough just how awesome this is to go back and actually use. I mean, I don't care if you have, once again, a computer, a car. I use this on my vehicles. It works amazing, especially if you go to a mechanic and it's a sporadic problem. You know, if it's a variable, once again, it goes over here. Sporadic problem. What did you do prior to encountering a problem? Did you change from Mach 3 to Linux? I have some guys that like to try just different operating systems, different motion control software. If you did that, write it down. Okay, you're going to write everything down. Any change you make to the machine, I would write down. Anything you've done to the machine prior to testing, write it down. That's your variable. Okay, then if you ever go back and you look, you're like, oh, look, I did that. You know, I can go back and I can revert that back and we'll see what happens. And then if you do that right there through the process of trial and error, you know, you don't have to be Orville and Wilbur Wright. I mean, that's what, you know, a lot of the best inventors of their time, that's what they use is trial and error, and that's how they learn. We are doing essentially the same, because a lot of times if you've created your own machine, even if you bought a machine, you're hoping everything is done right. Again, you don't know that till you get it in-house and you actually set it up, and then you're waiting to produce a product or go over exactly the settings to make her function, and you're hoping everything is correct. So once again, write it down. You know, if your feed rate today, if you go in and you say, you know what, I was able to cut my IPM with 70, and again, I recommend using comments if you are going to use Excel just for spacing. That's my own preference. I'm going to say changed end mill. Okay. And right now, what we know, and again, keep everything neat. You know, the neater it is, the more organized you are, the more you think better. You'll think clearer. Okay. Changed end mill. I was actually running at 70 IPM. You know, yesterday when I was using the old end mill, I was at 50 IPM. Okay, so IPM 50, and then you go there, and that gives you just, again, visual notes going through every change you make, always record it. I guarantee you that if you do that and you find you encounter an issue, it becomes almost stupid easy to revert back. And then what I would do, again, if you're going through this, again, come under your solutions executed, and you can come over here at any time and revert back to the date, the time, and you'll have all that information right there ready to dissect and ready for you to try in the event that, you know, you encounter that problem again. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Not to mention, I'm telling you this now because, again, I deal with a lot of technicians. I'm human like you are. There's times I have questions and I need answers too. I record a technician's name down. I record the time. And when you approach somebody, just as a normal, you know, socialistic approach, if you call somebody, a company, and you say, hey, can I speak to Christian, if that's who you spoke to, let's just say, for example, and he says, yeah, that's me. You know, that already tells him that you're paying attention. That tells him that you care enough to, oh, man, you remember my name. That's cool. It gives you just that personal effect to where now when they're actually speaking to you, now they're looking at, okay, this guy's really paying attention. He's really there to learn. I'm going to go that route. I'm going to go the extra mile. Think like that. You know, don't forget respect. Don't forget to think in terms of you're trying to get as much help as possible. And one of the toughest things in this industry overall, which you're probably going to find almost immediately, is the lack of knowledge, in the sense that it may be there, but it's only there at certain times. You know, it's there when you buy the machine. It's there when you're looking at the machine. As soon as it's bought, odds are that's when it's either getting costly to have support, or it gets to the point where support is kind of at their beck and call. When, you know, you decide, hey, it's Sunday night, midnight, I got an order to fill by Tuesday, my machine goes down, I contact him at midnight, you know, okay, I don't get an answer because, again, it's late at night, but I'm hoping Monday morning early, 5 a.m., I'm going to get an answer. And guess what? It's usually not the case. So take into consideration all that when you're doing this. And once again, like I said, that extra bit of respect where you do write down someone's name. You do say, hey, I remember I spoke to you. I did everything you said, so-and-so, you know, whatever you guided me on, and this is where I'm at. Where can we go from here? I guarantee you'll get the results you're looking for, whether it be a direct part replacement, you know, if components need to be replaced, so be it. But overall, what you're overall looking at doing is making it to where you've got the education yourself that you know your machine better than the tech. And that's really what you want to prove. You want to make it to where every base has been covered that you can possibly do other than rebuilding that drive. You've done it. You know, hey, I've done this already. Sorry, okay, I did this. And you know, 9 out of 10 times you'll call, and I can only relate this to Bright House. I just had this happen recently. That's who I have as my internet provider. And you call, and they instantly go off into their jargon, the technician does, about what they can do to help you. Okay, did you try this? Did you try that? I always politely like to say, hey, you know what? Let me tell you what I've done, and then we can go into your list, and then you can go from there. This way you're better educated on what I've done to help provide me a solution to what I'm encountering. And usually that works out well. It really does. So now you guys have a really good assessment of what system I use, and what, again, this is not just a system I use. I didn't make this up, guys. This is factually used by some of the largest corporations in the world in manufacturing. Okay, so think about that. If you just use 10% of what I've just told you to make your machine a better machine and make you a more educated end user, this is going to pay for itself in a very short amount of time. So really, I hope you gained something from this. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Once again, my name is Vince, eDealers Direct lead engineer. I can tell you right now that if you do have any questions, don't be afraid of leaving me your number. I can give you a call. A lot of times I like doing phone calls because, number one, I like talking to my people, mainly because I can cover a lot more information in a short amount of time. I don't have a lot of time during the day to do a lot of tech support, and when I do, I want to be precise. I also, if you have questions on actual builds, I'm there to help as much as possible. Anyone who's worked with me will tell you that. The big thing is that a lot of times to do a custom build or do those type of, to give that extra support where it's needed, to do that in email would take weeks of going back and forth. I prefer phone calls because, again, it is personal. It does cover your needs directly, and to me, that's old school business, and that's the way it should be done. So once again, if you guys have any questions, you want to see any videos, let me know. But overall, I think this video right here will really help a lot of people that encounter issues. And believe me, guys, don't start making this template when you have a problem. That's not the time to do this. If you're thinking about getting into CNC, I would start already thinking of ways to implement this template. Whichever way you want to do it. You want to record things, you want to film videos, you want to do Excel, whichever way you want to do it, that's the time to do it, because that's when you're really going to know, okay, I'm thinking about things. When you're building your machine, you can record anything you find. It helps immensely. What if you had a strip bolt and and this happens? You get hardware, it's not the right hardware. Some of them have burrs on it. You're assembling a machine, some of your 6mm bolts, some of them have burrs on it. Record it, take a step back. You're eating dinner, put the computer down. Okay, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to record something, and then you can go back and contact everybody and be done. Do the work, do the due diligence, and I guarantee you in everything with this, the more precise you are, again, you're learning machining. We all strive. If your tolerance is 0.003 of an inch, you're striving for that tolerance all the time. Keep that in mind in that same frame of thought and precision when you're doing any type of troubleshooting or any type of just recording data. That's what you're really looking at doing. So keep that in mind. And once again, I hope this has helped everybody. Take care.